She wasn't crying. She wasn't screaming. Princess Charlotte was just walking toward the van, calm and quiet, like she'd been told this was completely normal. But everything about it was wrong. The van had no royal markings, no security escort followed her, and the man guiding her by the shoulder wasn't palace staff. He was Camilla's adult son, a man with no official role, no security clearance, and no right to be alone with a princess. Staff Sergeant David Mitchell saw it all from 30 meters away. He'd been stationed at Windsor Castle's East Service Corridor for 6 years. He knew every vehicle that had clearance to enter this section. This grey civilian van wasn't one of them. More importantly, he knew the protocols around royal children. 2 escorts minimum. Documented movement logs. Parental approval verified. None of those things were happening right now. Charlotte stepped up into the van's open door. The man climbed in after her. The door slid shut, and Mitchell's hand moved to his rifle, not to fire. He didn't even unsling it from his shoulder, but his fingers wrapped around the grip in a way that every person watching would understand. This vehicle wasn't leaving, not with a princess inside, not without answers. But before we show you exactly what happened when Prince William arrived and discovered what had almost happened to his daughter, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And if you want more stories about the royal guards who protect the family when no one else is watching, hit that subscribe button. Now, back to the story. Windsor Castle that afternoon was quieter than usual. No public events scheduled. So no press tours. Just the normal rhythm of staff rotations and family movements. Princess Charlotte had finished her afternoon lessons in the Green Conservatory, 10 years old, still in her school uniform, carrying a folder of artwork she'd been working on. She was supposed to meet her mother in the West Wing in 20 minutes. The hallway she walked through was one of the service corridors, not the grand public halls tourists see, but the working areas where staff move equipment and supplies. Stone floors, plain walls, a few windows overlooking the interior courtyard. It was the kind of place where a princess could walk without being photographed, without being watched by dozens of people. Except she was being watched. Mitchell made sure of it. His post was at the east gate where the service road connected to the main grounds. From there, he had a clear view down the corridor. Part of his job was monitoring vehicle access. Every delivery truck, every staff car, every maintenance van had to be logged and cleared. No exceptions. When the grey van appeared, Mitchell noticed immediately. No royal insignia on the doors, no security tags on the windshield. It moved slowly, almost carefully, like the driver was trying not to draw attention. The engine hummed low as it rolled to a stop exactly where the corridor met the service road. Mitchell's eyes narrowed. He pulled out his phone and checked the vehicle access log. Nothing scheduled for this time, no maintenance calls, no deliveries. He looked back at the van. The driver stayed behind the wheel, but the passenger door opened. Camilla's son stepped out. Mitchell recognized him. The man had been around the castle before, usually with his mother, usually for private family events. Late 40s, expensive coat. Hair styled like he'd just come from a salon. But what caught Mitchell's attention was what the man wasn't wearing. No visitor badge, no escort tag. Nothing that indicated he'd been cleared to be here. Then, Charlotte appeared at the far end of the corridor. Small figure in a navy school jumper. White collar visible. Her brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She walked at an easy pace, not rushed, occasionally glancing down at the folder in her hands. She looked like any child leaving class, completely unaware that anything unusual was happening. Camilla's son started walking toward her. His pace matched hers, casual, unthreatening. When he reached her, he leaned down slightly, said something Mitchell couldn't hear, and gestured toward the van. Charlotte looked up at him, then at the vehicle, then nodded. That's when Mitchell's training kicked in. 3 tours in Afghanistan had taught him to recognize when something looked normal on the surface but felt wrong underneath. This was one of those moments. A grown man, no official role, alone with a princess, leading her toward an unmarked vehicle. No second adult present, no palace guard nearby, no logged clearance. Mitchell tapped the radio clipped to his chest. Quick double tap, silent alert to the guard command center. Someone would be listening, someone would check the logs, someone would confirm what Mitchell already suspected. This wasn't authorized. The man put his hand lightly on Charlotte's shoulder, guiding her toward the van. Not roughly, not aggressively, but guiding her nonetheless. Charlotte didn't resist. She just walked with him, trusting, the way children trust adults who seem confident and calm. Mitchell started moving, not running. That would cause panic. But walking with purpose, each step deliberate, closing the distance between his post and the van. 40 meters, 30, 20. Charlotte reached the van. The side door slid open automatically. The interior was visible for just a moment. 2 bench seats, dark upholstery. No car seat, no booster, nothing designed for a child. The man gestured for Charlotte to climb in. She hesitated for just a second, glancing back down the corridor like she was looking for someone. Then she stepped up. The man followed her in. The door began to close. Mitchell was 15 meters away now. His voice carried across the courtyard, clear and firm, but not shouting. Vehicle halt. The driver's head snapped up. Through the windshield, Mitchell could see confusion on the man's face. The van was still in park, but the driver's hand was moving toward the gearshift. Mitchell raised his left hand, palm out. Universal signal. Stop. Vehicle halt. Engine off. The van didn't move forward, but the engine stayed running. Inside, through the tinted rear windows, Mitchell could just make out Charlotte's shape. She was sitting in the second row, hands folded in her lap, perfectly still. Camilla's son appeared at the passenger window. He didn't open the door immediately. He just looked at Mitchell through the glass. Expression unreadable. Then slowly, carefully, he opened the door and stepped out. Both hands visible. Posture relaxed. Smile friendly. All good here, Sergeant, he said lightly. Just helping Charlotte with a quick errand. Queen Camilla asked me to bring her over. Mitchell didn't respond. He didn't smile back. He just stood there, hands still resting on his rifle, eyes moving between the man, the driver, and the van's rear windows. The man gestured casually. No need to worry. I'm family. This is just a private family matter. Mitchell's voice stayed level. Where's the escort clearance? The man's smile dimmed slightly. I told you. It's a family matter. Camilla requested Charlotte personally. Every vehicle movement involving a minor royal requires logged clearance and 2-person escort, Mitchell said. That's standing protocol. The man's friendly tone started to crack. I understand protocol, Sergeant, but I'm her step-grandfather's son. We're not strangers. Sir, I'm going to need you to step back from the vehicle. Are you seriously suggesting I'm a threat? Mitchell's reply was quiet but absolute. I'm saying this child doesn't leave without documented guardian approval and proper escort. That's not a suggestion. The man's expression shifted. The friendly mask dropped. What replaced it was irritation mixed with disbelief. You're going to block me? Do you understand who you're talking to? Yes, sir, and you're not on duty. You're not documented, and you don't have custody. Mitchell took one step closer. Step away from the vehicle. For a moment, neither man moved. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the courtyard. Somewhere in the distance, a clock tower chimed, and inside the van, Charlotte sat perfectly still, watching through the glass. The man finally pulled out his phone. This is ridiculous. I'm calling Camilla right now. Mitchell gave a sharp hand signal behind him. To anyone watching, it looked like he was just adjusting his stance. But it was a code. Guard command would know. Checkpoint hold. Lock down the corridor. No vehicles in or out until this was resolved. Within seconds, Mitchell's earpiece crackled. Command acknowledges. Holding northeast gate. What's your status? Mitchell didn't respond verbally. He just kept his eyes on the van. The driver was still behind the wheel, hands now gripping the steering wheel, knuckles white. He looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Camilla's son was on his phone now, speaking in low, urgent tones. Mitchell caught fragments. Yes, at the east gate. I don't know. He just won't. No. I told him you requested her. Well, he's not listening. Mitchell could hear footsteps approaching behind him. Quick, purposeful steps. Back up. 2 palace guards appeared at his flanks, neither speaking, just taking positions that made the message clear. This van wasn't moving. Then came different footsteps, sharper, heels on stone. Mitchell knew that sound. He'd heard it dozens of times during ceremonial functions. Queen Camilla appeared at the corridor entrance. She moved fast, faster than Mitchell had ever seen her move. Her expression was tight, controlled, but her eyes flashed with unmistakable irritation. She wore a cream-colored suit, pearls at her throat, hair perfectly styled, every inch the queen consort, every inch someone who expected to be obeyed. What is happening here? Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. Mitchell turned slightly, just enough to acknowledge her presence, but he didn't step away from the van. Your Majesty, we have an unauthorized vehicle with an undocumented minor movement. Camilla's eyes narrowed. Unauthorized? I authorized it personally. There's no log entry, ma'am. No escort assignment. And Princess Charlotte's schedule shows her meeting Princess Catherine in 20 minutes. Plans changed, Camilla said crisply. I'm her grandmother. I asked my son to bring Charlotte to me for tea. This is a family matter, not a security incident. Mitchell had been a guard long enough to know when someone was telling the truth and when they were constructing a version of the truth. This was the latter. The logistics were too convenient, the timing too careful, the lack of documentation too deliberate. Ma'am, any change to a minor royals movement requires documented approval from the primary guardian. That's Princess Catherine or Prince William. Camilla took a step closer. I am the Queen Consort. I don't need permission to spend time with my granddaughter. No, ma'am, but you do need to follow security protocols, and those weren't followed here. You're being obstinate. I'm following regulations. Camilla's jaw tightened. She glanced at the van, then back at Mitchell. Stand down, Sergeant. That's an order. Mitchell's hand stayed on his rifle. With respect, ma'am, I don't take orders regarding royal children from anyone except their legal guardians and my direct chain of command. Princess Charlotte stays here until I verify authorization. The silence that followed was thick enough to cut. The other guards hadn't moved. The driver stared straight ahead. Camilla's son stood frozen between the van and his mother, phone still in his hand. Then another voice cut through the tension. What's going on? Everyone turned. Princess Catherine stood at the far end of the corridor. She wasn't running, but she was walking faster than usual. Her face was calm, but Mitchell could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her hands were slightly clenched at her sides. Behind her, another figure appeared, taller, broader, Prince William. His expression was completely neutral, which Mitchell knew from experience was more dangerous than anger. Catherine reached the van first. Her eyes went immediately to the windows, searching. Charlotte. Inside the van, Charlotte finally moved. She leaned forward slightly, face visible through the tinted glass. She looked small, uncertain, but not scared. Not yet. Catherine's hand went to the door handle. Camilla's son moved to block her. Catherine, wait. This is just a misunderstanding. William stepped between them, not touching anyone, not raising his voice, just standing there in a way that made everyone take a step back. Open the door. It wasn't a request. The door slid open. Charlotte sat in the second row, school folder still on her lap, looking at her mother with wide eyes that were trying very hard to stay brave. Catherine climbed in immediately, kneeling beside Charlotte's seat, hands cupping her daughter's face. Are you okay? Did anyone hurt you? Charlotte shook her head. I'm okay, Mummy. Mr. Tom said we were going to see Granny Camilla for tea. He said it was a surprise. Catherine's expression didn't change, but Mitchell saw her hands tighten slightly. Did you want to go? Charlotte hesitated. He said you knew. He said you'd said it was okay. I didn't know, sweetheart. No one told us. Charlotte's eyes got wider. But he said, it's okay. Catherine's voice stayed soft. You didn't do anything wrong. William stood at the door, not climbing in, just watching. His voice when he spoke was quiet. Dangerously quiet. Get out of the van. Camilla's son hesitated. William, this was supposed to be a nice gesture. Camilla wanted to spend time with Charlotte. Get out. The man climbed out. William didn't move, didn't make space. The man had to step carefully around him. Catherine helped Charlotte down. The girl's legs were shaky. Whether from fear or just from sitting still for too long, Mitchell couldn't tell. Catherine kept one arm around her shoulders, holding her close. Camilla stepped forward. Catherine, please. This was just meant to be a short visit. Catherine's response was ice. A visit you didn't clear with me. Using a vehicle I didn't approve. Taking my daughter without my knowledge. I'm her grandmother. You're not her legal guardian. Catherine's voice never rose, but every word landed like a hammer. And you know the protocols. Everyone knows the protocols. Camilla turned to William. This is being blown entirely out of proportion. My son was doing me a favor. William's eyes moved to the man. You told her we approved this? I said it was fine. I didn't think specific approval was necessary for family. You lied to a child to get her into an unmarked vehicle without security. That's not what happened. Then what did happen? William's voice didn't change. Still quiet. Still calm. Explain to me why my daughter is in a van I didn't authorize with a man who has no security clearance and no documented reason to be alone with her. Camilla's son opened his mouth, then closed it. Nothing he could say would make this better. William turned to the nearest guard. Escort him to the West Wing security office. Take a full statement. Do not let him leave the building until I've reviewed it. William, that's excessive, Camilla protested. William's head turned toward her. Slowly. He bypassed every security measure we have. He misrepresented his authority to my daughter. He put her in a vehicle that wasn't cleared, wasn't logged, and had no assigned security. He took one step toward Camilla. If anyone else had done this, they'd be in handcuffs right now. So no, mother, this is not excessive. Camilla's face flushed. You're being cruel. I'm being a father. William looked at Mitchell. The guard who stopped this. What's your name? Staff Sergeant David Mitchell, sir. How did you know something was wrong? No logged vehicle, sir. No escort tags. And the movement pattern didn't match protocol for a minor royal. William nodded slowly. You could have looked the other way. Let it pass. Avoided making this difficult. Sir, my job is protecting the family, even from people inside the family, if necessary. The words hung in the air. Everyone heard them. Everyone understood what Mitchell was really saying. William extended his hand. Mitchell shook it. Firm grip. Eye contact. Thank you, Sergeant. Catherine had knelt down to Charlotte's level again. Baby, I need you to tell me the truth. Did you feel safe? Charlotte thought about it. Really thought about it. Then she shook her head. I kept waiting for you to come. Mr. Tom said you knew, but you weren't there. And that felt wrong. Catherine pulled her close. Your instinct was right. If something feels wrong, it usually is. Charlotte looked over her mother's shoulder at Mitchell. The guard hadn't moved from his position, still at attention, still watching. She caught his eye for just a second, then gave a small nod, just a tiny dip of her head. "Thank you." Mitchell nodded back, equally small, equally real. William turned to Camilla one last time. "You will not have unsupervised access to my children. Not after this." "William, that's not fair." "Fair?" William's voice finally rose, not to a shout, but to something with real heat behind it. "You attempted to take my daughter without telling me. You used your position to bypass security. You put her in a situation that could have been dangerous, and you did it deliberately, carefully, in a way that avoided documentation." He stepped closer. "So no more private visits, no more surprise requests. If you want to see Charlotte, George, or Louis, you ask Catherine or me first, in writing, and if we say no, the answer is no." Camilla's mouth opened, then closed. No words came. William took Catherine's free hand. Together, they walked Charlotte back down the corridor. The girl stayed between them, one small hand in her mother's grip, occasionally glancing up at her father, like she needed confirmation he was really there. They didn't look back. Camilla stood frozen. Her son stood frozen. The van sat idle, and Mitchell remained exactly where he'd been since the moment he'd stepped into its path. One of the palace aides approached Camilla carefully. "Ma'am, perhaps we should—" "Don't," Camilla said sharply. Then she turned and walked away. Fast, heels clicking on stone. Alone. Her son followed after being processed by security. No handcuffs, no public arrest. But every guard who saw him pass knew what he'd done, and none of them met his eyes. The van was escorted off the grounds an hour later. Driver questioned. Movement logged. Clearance revoked. It wouldn't return. That night, Charlotte sat in her bedroom in the residential wing. The window overlooked the east courtyard. If she looked carefully, she could just see the guard post where Mitchell had been stationed. A different guard stood there now. Evening rotation. But the post remained. The watch remained. Catherine sat on the edge of Charlotte's bed. "How are you feeling?" "I'm okay." Charlotte picked at the edge of her blanket. "Mummy, did I do something bad by going with Mr. Tom?" "No, baby. You trusted an adult who told you something that sounded true. That's not your fault." "But I should have asked you first." "You're 10 years old. You shouldn't have to question every adult who talks to you." Catherine brushed a strand of hair from Charlotte's face. "But from now on, if someone tells you that Dad or I approved something, and we're not there to confirm it, you come find us first, okay?" Charlotte nodded. Then she looked out the window again. "The guard, the one who stopped the van, he knew something was wrong even when everyone else said it was fine." "He did?" "How did he know?" Catherine thought about that. "Because his job isn't just following orders. It's watching. Really watching. And when something doesn't fit, even if he can't explain exactly why, he trusts that feeling." "I had that feeling," Charlotte said quietly. "When Mr. Tom said you knew, I had a feeling that something was wrong, but I ignored it." "Don't ignore it next time." "I won't." Catherine kissed her forehead. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow is a new day." But Charlotte stayed at the window a little longer after her mother left. She watched the guard on duty. Watched him stand there, perfectly still, perfectly alert, protecting the family while they slept. She pressed her hand against the glass. "Thank you," she mouthed, even though no one could see. Down in the east corridor, the duty logs were being updated. The incident would be recorded with careful language. Unauthorized vehicle access attempted. Minor Royal secured. Response validated. No press release, no public statement, no headlines. Because inside Windsor Castle, silence is how severity is measured. But every guard knew, every staff member knew, and the message was clear. The protocols weren't suggestions, they were law, and anyone who thought their position placed them above those laws had learned otherwise. 3 days later, Mitchell was called to a private office. No ceremony, no announcement. Just a quiet meeting with the head of palace security and a letter of commendation for his file. Not public recognition. That wasn't how things worked here, but recognition nonetheless. William had requested the commendation personally. Catherine had signed off on it, and Charlotte, in her own way, had already given her thanks. 1 week after the incident, Camilla attended a public function. She smiled for cameras, shook hands, played her role perfectly. But when photographers asked about her grandchildren, her smile grew tight. "I see them when appropriate," she said simply. The journalist didn't push, but everyone who knew what when appropriate meant understood. Supervised visits, documented schedules, no surprises, no private arrangements. The rules had changed, and they wouldn't change back. Royal Guards stand watch for ceremonies and traditions. They protect history and pageantry. They maintain order and dignity. But sometimes, when no cameras are watching and no crowds are present, they do something more important. They stand between power and innocence, between authority and abuse, between what someone wants to do and what they should never be allowed to do. Staff Sergeant David Mitchell didn't think of himself as a hero. He'd just done his job, followed the protocols, trusted his training. But in that moment, when he stepped in front of that van, he became exactly what every Royal Guard promises to be when they take their oath. A protector, not of crowns or thrones, but of the people those crowns are supposed to serve. If this story showed you something about Royal Guards you didn't know before, hit that subscribe button. We tell these stories every day because they matter, because the truth about what happens inside palace walls deserves to be told. Tomorrow, we'll show you what happened when Camilla tried to remove Queen Elizabeth's favourite piece from the royal collection before anyone noticed it was missing. You won't believe how close she came to succeeding. Drop a comment below. Do you think William was right to restrict Camilla's access to the children? Or was he being too harsh? We read every comment. We'll see you tomorrow.